Are you considering moving to Luanda, Angola, and you're not sure what to expect? Then you're in the right place. Hi guys, my name is Melissa. Welcome back to the channel. I am a 7-year expat and I'm currently repatriated back in Texas, but I spent 3.5 years living in Luanda, Angola, and another 3 years living in Buenos Aires, Argentina. So I am an expert on expat living and I am here to share all my knowledge with you about Luanda, Angola. But before I get into the video, I wanted to let you know that I have an amazing expat blog chock full of everything you could want to know about expat life. It is lifebymelissaandrew.com, so definitely go check it out. And also be sure you're following me on Instagram so you can keep up with what I've got going on every day, and that's at Melissa R. Espinoza. I am super excited today because I am starting a 3-part series called Expat Life Living in Luanda, Angola. So I'm actually going to be doing 3 videos and 3 blog posts dedicated to everything life in Angola. So if you're considering moving to Luanda, Angola on an expat assignment with your company or just by yourself, you're just looking to live someplace different in Africa, then you're definitely going to want to hit that red subscribe button because you're going to want to be notified when I release anything Angola related. So if you're watching this video, there is a good chance that maybe your company has an office location in Luanda, Angola, or you're just considering moving there as maybe a digital nomad, and you're definitely in the right place. Angola has been a huge part of my life. I worked a lot with Angola before I actually moved there as far as getting visas for people to go there and then actually moving there myself. It holds a very near and dear place in my heart. But even though it's not very well known, there are a lot of companies that have global offices located in Luanda. So a lot of large multinational companies have offices there in Luanda. And that is exactly how I ended up spending 3.5 years living in Luanda. My husband works for a major oil and gas company, and he received a job offer to move to Luanda as a resident. And we accepted, and we ended up spending 3.5 years there. So all that being said, Angola is a very hard and challenging place to live, but it also offers a lot of rewards. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the poverty there, the food, and also expat housing. In next videos, I'll be talking about different segments as well as far as safety and driving and stores and cost of goods and work visas. So definitely be sure to subscribe. That way you'll find out when those videos are released. All right, let's talk about the poverty in Angola. Unfortunately, at least half or 50% of the country lives below the poverty line, and that's probably being conservative. The actual number is probably much higher, but things don't always get reported as is there. But if you've done any research about Luanda, Angola before landing on this YouTube channel, then you probably already knew that. Angola is a very natural resource-rich country. Unfortunately, the spoils of those natural resources don't always tend to trickle down. So things like infrastructure or hunger or drinkable water or sewage tend to go unchecked. If you're considering moving to Luanda, Angola, then you need to be prepared to see and deal with the feelings of poverty on a daily basis. It will be in your face. Even though you're not necessarily living in poverty, you will probably be, on an expat compound. It will still be difficult to be and live among so much devastation on a daily basis, and it definitely does take a mental toll on you. The poverty in Angola is just devastating. It was really hard sometimes. Of course, I wasn't living in poverty, so I can't even begin to imagine or try and empathize with people that were living that way. But just seeing it day in and day out, it was just absolutely heartbreaking. There were times when I couldn't even look out my car window because sometimes it would just get to you, and it was just really sad. I think some of the worst things that I saw were one time a child was using a puddle of water in the street to clean his face, and that was really sad. On a daily basis, you would see multiple people use the restroom on the side of the street. It's just hard to see, and it's really sad because there is so much money in Angola, But again, it just doesn't trickle down, and there's so many people that are living in devastatingly states and in poverty around you. So that's just a fraction of what I saw on a daily basis. So if you're thinking about moving to Luanda, Angola on an expat assignment, then definitely be prepared to, I guess, face poverty face to face. It will be a huge part of your everyday life and what you see. And of course, there are ways that you can, volunteer and try and do your part to help out. But you will be faced with poverty on a daily basis. All right, let's kind of switch gears and talk about something a little more positive. We're going to talk about food. And if you are a longtime watcher of this channel, you know that I love food. I love to talk about food. I've done a video about the food in Buenos Aires. I reference it a lot. So let's talk about food in Luanda, Angola. But before we talk about food, do you guys like my statue here? He is a wood carving of the thinking man that I got at a market called Benfica in Luanda, Angola. They have tons of wood carvings. The rest of them are in my shipment. They haven't quite made it from Buenos Aires. When I get them, I'll show them to you. I've got some amazing elephants and giraffes. But this guy, I brought in my suitcase because he's so special. And he's smaller, only about 18 inches, so he fit in a suitcase. But I thought he was a good prop for today to just show you something from Angola. All right, let's get back to the food. So I'm gonna be honest with you guys. The food in Angola is not that amazing to me. That's my personal opinion, so please don't get offended if you're Angolan and watching this. There were tons of things that I liked about the food, but just in general, I didn't really like the food in Angola so much. They get a lot of their influence from the Portuguese because Angola was a Portuguese colony before they won their independence. So you'll see a lot of the same foods from Portugal and then also from Brazil. We took a trip to Brazil just over a year ago, right before COVID. And we saw a lot of similarities. It was pretty cool. But a lot of the food in Luanda, Angola is very meat or fish. They'll have a lot of meat and fish on the plate, and then some cassava or funge, which is cassava, mashed cassava, and then usually some beans or vegetables. And usually there's more beans and vegetables than meat because obviously meat is more expensive. But that's a typical plate in Angola, typical Angolan food, I guess. And you will put that all in one plate, kind of mix it, mash it in together, and eat it all together. Another popular thing in Luanda, which I hadn't really experienced so much before, was buffet style type restaurants. Of course, we have buffets in America, probably too many. But these buffets were a little bit different. So it was a typical buffet, but you would pick up a plate at one end and you would fill your plate with, the meats and the rice and the french fries and whatever you wanted to put on it, your sweets. And then you would get to the end and actually weigh the plate right in front of the register. And the register would see the weight and then you would pay based on the weight of your plate. So the more, I guess, dense things you put on your plate or the heavier things, your food would cost more. And then if you put more light things, like a bread roll, your plate would cost less. So it was, I guess you could say, pay by the plate or pay by the weight. And that was definitely unique to Luanda. There might be that in other places in the world, but definitely don't have that here in the US. So since the food in Angola isn't that great, luckily there's a lot of expats there and they have brought their global influences over to Luanda and open restaurants. So there are a lot of choices to get different kind of global cuisines there. There's actually a huge Chinese immigrant population there. A lot of Chinese immigrants move there to build buildings and start lives there, and they have opened some really good Chinese restaurants. So if you enjoy Chinese food, you will definitely have several restaurants to choose from. Another one was Indian food. There were two really great Indian places. One was Vista de Fortaleza and the other was Andes. Andes is in downtown. And then Vista de Fortaleza was off the Ilia, but it had a view of the fort downtown. So it was a great place to eat, both of them. Andes is a little bit more expensive, but I will link Andes down below and I'll see if I can find a website for Vista de Fortaleza. I'm not sure if they have one though. And Mediterranean or Lebanese food was super popular in Angola as well. Our favorite was Al Dar. It was downtown, really close to the office, so we would go there for lunch, usually about once a week. It was delicious. They had good falafels, they had awesome pita bread. So if you're into Mediterranean food, then you're definitely going to fit right in living in Luanda. And whenever I was homesick, they did have some KFC fried chicken. So I don't normally get KFC here in the US. In fact, I never do. But living in Luanda, when I got homesick, it was a place from the US. I was familiar with the taste, and it really just made me kind of feel like I was back at home. So we probably got KFC maybe once every 2 weeks. And then about halfway into our time living in Luanda, they opened a Pizza Hut. So that was really exciting. So we would get pizza again, probably once every 2 weeks from Pizza Hut. And it just really made me feel like I was back at home whenever I was having a hard day. And again, I will be talking about grocery stores in another video. So definitely go below and hit that red button. That way you'll be subscribed and you'll be notified when I release that video. All right, let's talk about the final topic for today's video, and that is expat housing. So if you're planning on moving to Luanda, Angola on an assignment with your employer, then more than likely they're planning on taking care of your housing for you. If they're not going to pay for it, they're at least going to tell you where to live, or maybe give you an option of 2 or 3 different locations. Typically, for safety reasons, your employer will want to keep you in specified apartments or housing compounds, so they can always know that you're in a safe place and living in a safe, more Western type accommodations. So it's really nice that you probably won't have to worry about looking for a place. This was definitely the case with our company. They had designated places where you could live based on your family status. So if you were single or a couple or married with children, so a family, there were different places that you could live. So a lot of the single people and couples lived in the city in the apartments, and then a lot of families lived a little bit further outside of the city on an expat compound. And my husband and I, when we were in Luanda, we actually moved once. So we moved to Luanda and we lived in Paraíso, and we had an amazing home there with a pool. It was so great. And it was an expat compound, but it was also a lot of local Angolans that lived there. They were very wealthy though. So your typical Angolan is not going to be able to afford living in an expat type compound or Western style housing. Across the street, we had a rapper. We had a few ministers, a health minister. Very wealthy people lived in that neighborhood, and then a lot of the expats from my company. So we had an amazing home, and then about halfway through our assignment, more than halfway, it was towards the end of our assignment, we moved into another expat compound, a little outside the city, and that was called Yasmin, and we loved that home. It was super modern, and we absolutely adored living there as well. So we got really lucky with housing in Luanda. We were able to have a house each time. We didn't have to live in the noisy city, and we absolutely loved living on the compound. So a tip if you are planning to move to Luanda, Angola, and your company already has some expats living there, definitely reach out to HR and see if you can get some names of people already living there. It'll be great for them to kind of let you know what to expect with the housing, how many bedrooms, what it's like living there. That will really help you know what to expect, and then also kind of what to pack in your suitcases as you're preparing for your move. So yeah, I've mentioned that the housing that you will probably be in is pretty westernized. Lots of bedrooms, lots of bathrooms. Even the apartments in the city were, I believe, 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. They usually put a bathroom in each bedroom. They were very large accommodations. The kitchens were large. The only thing about the kitchens, if you're American, is that the appliances were sometimes very small European appliances, which if you're American, that's something that we have to get a little used to, using a very small stove or having a very small sink. But that's not a big deal because the accommodations in general are pretty nice. But be warned, just because your house or apartment is westernized or modern doesn't mean you're not going to have problems. So unfortunately, the building in Luanda is notorious for not always being built so well. There were a lot of instances where friends had a lot of repairs that were needed, water leaks, roofs caving in, serious foundation issues, walls that were starting to crack open. And I'm not talking about just small cracks, like legit serious cracks. So we knew a lot of people that had to move houses quite often actually to get repairs done. So that was unfortunate. So just expect that just because your accommodations look really nice, there might be some issues going on behind the walls and you might be in for some repairs down the road. And then of course, as you would expect, living on compounds or in nice apartment buildings, a lot of them have amenities. Tennis courts are really popular, of course swimming pools because you're in Africa. Those are popular. Some are even starting to have gyms, which is really nice. So there's definitely lots of different types of amenities that you can also expect when you're living on a compound or in an apartment downtown. All right, guys, that is today's video about living in Luanda. I hope you learned something new. The next video I'm planning on doing is going to be about driving, safety, and Portuguese, which is a language that's spoken there in Luanda. So you're definitely going to want to hit that red button, and that will let you know when I release the next video on those topics. I hope you guys enjoyed today, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.